What if one of America's most iconic farming companies was about to lose the trust of the very people who built its name? For decades, John Deere stood for rugged reliability and small-town values, a brand you could count on. But beneath that bright green paint and storied heritage, a battle is now unfolding, one that threatens to reshape not just a legendary corporation, but the entire landscape of American agriculture. Farm closures, equipment lockouts, and a tidal wave of outsourcing decisions have ignited outrage in once loyal farming communities. With so many livelihoods hanging by a thread, people are asking, has John Deere betrayed the very farmers who made it an icon? Or is the company just adapting to an unforgiving global economy where only the most efficient survive? As we dig deeper into the shocking events and the forces shaping them, we'll uncover a chain reaction that might change American farming forever. John Deere became a household name by promising quality and dependability, but the brand's recent trajectory has left workers and farmers reeling. Factories in the United States that once buzzed with life are now shutting down for re-evaluations, leading to untold anxiety in the communities that depended on those jobs. Many of these towns have known nothing but green and yellow tractors for generations. Entire families worked at the local plant, passing down that loyalty as though it were part of the DNA. Today, they face an uncertain future where the once stable jobs might relocate to facilities across the border or even overseas. At first, rumors of closures were dismissed as typical corporate maneuvering, but soon enough, the announcements became official. Certain plants would be shuttered, at least temporarily, while John Deere assessed market conditions and realigned itself. Critics say these moves are motivated less by realignment and more by the allure of cheaper labor. Yet company insiders argue they're under immense pressure to cut costs and remain profitable in a fiercely competitive sector. After all, John Deere is no longer just a mechanical giant. It's a tech company at heart, building machines that rely on advanced sensors, GPS satellites, and cutting-edge software. This demands new expertise, supply chain management, and relentless cost-effectiveness. Simultaneously, farmers who once joked they bled green are feeling pushed aside. It began with software lockouts, an unassuming but potent shift that left countless equipment owners locked out of their own tractors. For decades, if a part broke, a farmer could tinker in the barn or hire a local mechanic for a quick fix. But with the newest lines of John Deere machinery, that do-it-yourself approach has become nearly impossible. Complex diagnostic systems require authorized codes, specialized software, and official updates, none of which are freely provided to independent repair shops or the farmers themselves. That's how the right to repair movement took off, and it's done so with a vengeance. Traditional farmers aren't used to taking this sort of thing lying down. Feeling cornered, they organized protests, filed lawsuits, and lobbied state legislatures to open a door that John Deere had slammed shut. The argument is straightforward. If you buy a machine, especially a machine that might cost as much as a small house, you should have the right to fix it without jumping through corporate hoops. On the other side, John Deere insists that modern tractors are intricate systems requiring specialized oversight to ensure safety and protect proprietary technologies. The question is, at what point does protecting intellectual property become squeezing loyal customers dry? The consequences are far more devastating than a simple argument about who changes the oil. When a vital piece of equipment breaks down mid-season, a farmer's entire year can be wrecked. Planting windows are unforgiving. Harvest can't wait. Even a short delay can spell ruinous losses for smaller operations that rely on timely cycles. Waiting days or weeks for an official dealership to service a tractor might put a farmer so far behind that their yields are slashed in half. Those are real, life-altering stakes. It's more than a matter of convenience, it's a matter of survival. As these tensions reached a boiling point, John Deere announced significant shifts in production, citing cost efficiencies and global supply chain realities. That's when the political firestorm erupted. Former President Donald Trump, never one to hold back, took to his favorite platforms to condemn what he saw as blatant outsourcing of American jobs. He threatened tariffs on John Deere equipment manufactured overseas and then sold back into the U.S. In his speeches, he insisted a brand that profited for so many years off the American worker had no business transferring operations outside our borders. He wasn't the only politician to chime in. Both Republicans and Democrats took sides, some accusing John Deere of ignoring its patriotic duty, others warning that heavy-handed government interference might hamper business innovation. At the center of these debates stood thousands of factory workers, unsure whether to trust corporate reassurances. Some had spent their entire adult lives at Deere plants, building engines, assembling parts, and painting exteriors. Could they realistically pack up and move to a new state or a new country just to keep their jobs? And what would replace those manufacturing roles in towns where John Deere was the cornerstone of the local economy? Economists suggest that large-scale outsourcing sends a ripple effect through communities, taking down small businesses that once thrived on the foot traffic of plant workers and draining local tax bases that fund schools, roads, and hospitals. All the while, the right to repair controversy continued to rage. It was no longer limited to John Deere alone. Farmers discovered that if a company could lock them out of a tractor, a tech giant could do the same with a smartphone, or a medical device maker could do it with a life-saving device. That recognition galvanized a coalition of farmers, consumer advocates, and independent mechanics who demanded new legislation guaranteeing the right to fix your own property. States like Colorado and Minnesota began passing or proposing their own laws, forcing agricultural manufacturers to share diagnostic tools and parts with owners. The legal arguments revolve around antitrust laws, with plaintiffs claiming John Deere has effectively established a repair monopoly and punishes any attempt at independent work. John Deere leadership remains firm that these measures are necessary to protect complex systems from tampering that might create safety hazards or infringe on proprietary software. On the surface, this might sound reasonable. Nobody wants to see a tractor's steering fail due to a faulty hack in the control software. Yet critics argue that the safety claims are just a smokescreen for corporate greed, as Deere pockets exclusive fees for authorized repairs and extended warranties. The tension here reveals a deeper philosophical clash. Should we view advanced machinery like farmland computers or as personal assets you own fully? The outcome of these battles could define the role technology plays in every future farm. Meanwhile, something else was brewing, a challenge from foreign competitors. China recognized an opportunity to capitalize on growing frustration in the U.S. agricultural sector. By partnering with Mexican manufacturers or setting up factories just across the southern border, Chinese firms began producing tractors and harvesters at a fraction of what American brands cost, without the draconian repair limitations. A wave of cheaper imports could theoretically storm the U.S. market, especially if the cost benefits outstrip any tariffs Washington might impose. And if Chinese companies can operate out of Mexico, they can leverage trade agreements to slip right into American fields without facing the same level of restriction they might encounter shipping directly from China. It's not just China. India's Mahindra, known globally for supplying rugged, affordably priced tractors, has been steadily carving a foothold in North America. By emphasizing simpler mechanics and open repair access, Mahindra lures farmers who are tired of John Deere's complicated software infrastructure. Jaded farmers see an alternative that doesn't chain them to a single brand for every maintenance detail. Firms from Japan, South Korea, and Europe smell blood in the water as well, offering advanced technologies with fewer strings attached. If John Deere doesn't adapt, it risks not only losing the loyalty of American farmers, but also ceding global dominance to these agile newcomers who are quick to innovate and quicker to fill market gaps. Global competition is further complicated by a new generation of autonomous farming machines. Deere has been investing heavily in robotics and AI-driven equipment that can plow fields, plant seeds, and even detect weeds without human operators. These futuristic tractors promise efficiencies that could lower labor costs. However, they also magnify the repair debate. If a conventional tractor is heavily software reliant, how much more reliant will a self-driving one be? And if you're locked out of updating your own software, what does that mean for on-farm autonomy? Against this backdrop, small farmers are rallying around each other like never before. Tired of big corporate structures dictating their every move, they're forming co-ops. These cooperatives share resources, including high-cost equipment, to spread the burden. If the co-op collectively owns a combine, then each member pays a fraction of the cost. Repairs can be managed internally, circumventing official dealers. Online communities have sprung up to exchange everything from 3D printed part designs to software hack tips. Some of these might sail into legally gray territory, but as many farmers put it, desperate times call for desperate measures. The goal is survival in an industry that seems increasingly tilted against them. In parallel, consumers are expressing more concern about where their food comes from and how farmers are treated. This interest fuels the local food movement, with direct-to-consumer sales and community-supported agriculture (CSA) programs giving farmers a buffer against corporate control. By selling tomatoes, dairy, or grass-fed beef directly to neighbors, small small farms can bypass some of the pricing pressures that come from large distributors. They're forging new relationships with consumers, who in turn become more aware of the economic and technological challenges their local farmers face. While this approach won't solve the repair crisis or bring outsourced jobs back overnight, it does chip away at the sense of isolation many farmers feel. As more and more farmers cry out for help, policymakers can no longer ignore the swelling wave of discontent. Right to repair legislation became a hot topic in state houses. Colorado passed a groundbreaking law that forced agricultural equipment manufacturers to provide diagnostic tools and parts to owners and independent repair shops. Suddenly, farmers had a glimmer of hope. If more states follow suit, it might push John Deere toward a new business model, one that doesn't rely on captive customers being forced to pay inflated service fees. Deere, of course, is not going quietly. The company's lobbying machine is formidable, warning that such laws invite cybersecurity risks and threaten their intellectual property. Critics point out that these arguments closely resemble those made by tech giants, battling the same concept in consumer electronics. While the legal fight rages on, the economic cost of the crisis is impossible to dismiss. Every time a new wave of layoffs hits or a plant closure is announced, entire American towns see their future dim. Some workers can't relocate, so they pick up odd jobs to make ends meet. The local diner sees fewer customers. The auto parts store down the street has less business, and the cycle continues. As these communities decline, farmland may be snapped up by larger agribusinesses or investors with deeper pockets, accelerating the consolidation that has already reshaped much of the agricultural world. In the eyes of some, this is the real endgame, a shift toward megafarms relying on automated fleets, with small family operations disappearing entirely. That's an outcome many rural Americans aren't willing to accept. Meanwhile, the potential of foreign dominance in agricultural machinery looms larger. If cheap Chinese tractors flood the market or Mahindra's straightforward models gain traction, John Deere's position as a global standard bearer could be replaced by a mosaic of new entrants. And with each foreign company that gains a stronger toehold, the question of American-made versus imported becomes more nuanced. Some farmers say they'd rather buy from India or China if it means they own their tractor in every sense of the word, rather than being stuck in a system that treats them like renters even after they've shelled out hundreds of thousands of dollars. As all this unfolds, the broader narrative becomes clear. This story isn't just about one company's ill-advised choice to relocate factories or enforce draconian repair policies. It's about who holds the real power in American farming, and by extension, who controls our food supply. If John Deere's bet is that farmers will simply accept these changes and keep buying green and yellow, the number of lawsuits and angry letters piling up suggest otherwise. Yet it also can't ignore the demands of a cutthroat market. If overhead remains sky high, the brand might be crushed under the weight of global competition. It's a high-wire act that will have consequences far beyond their corporate boardrooms. Washington, D.C. remains torn over how to respond. On one hand, protecting jobs and farmers is politically popular. On the other, many officials are wary of interfering in the private sector, especially when the modern supply chain is so interconnected that isolating any single culprit is tough. The memory of trade wars, tariffs on steel and aluminum, retaliatory taxes on soybeans still lingers. No one wants to see a repeat of crippling trade disputes that can easily spiral out of control. Meanwhile, some lawmakers are trying to push forward comprehensive right to repair bills at the federal level, but they face stiff lobbying opposition from corporations that argue one-size-fits-all legislation could hamper innovation. In the midst of this turmoil, there's a feeling that the old ways are dying and a new era is coming, whether or not we're ready for it. Will that new era feature a more transparent John Deere that respects farmer autonomy and invests in American workers? Or will it be a world where unstoppable market forces and unstoppable globalization push the brand into the background, leaving smaller co-ops and foreign entrants to reap the rewards? Farmers, for their part, haven't given up. Every day they head into the fields, carrying on a proud tradition that predates John Deere or any modern multinational. Even if they're forced to buy parted-out tractors or rig older models to avoid software restrictions, they do it because the farm must run. Their resilience and resourcefulness are legendary. The bigger question is whether that resilience is enough to overcome a system that seems stacked against them, from corporate giants to global economics. And so here we stand, at a critical moment. Tractors remain parked in dusty barns, waiting for a fix that might never come unless new laws take effect. Entire communities watch the horizon, hoping a new wave of investment will replace lost jobs, or that John Deere's next move won't cut deeper into the heart of rural America. Politicians of every stripe posture on national television, but solutions remain elusive. Meanwhile, rival companies circle like hawks, sensing an opportunity to dethrone a once untouchable titan. Where does this lead? One possible future sees John Deere reinventing itself, reverting to the values that once earned unwavering loyalty. Maybe they'll open up their repair systems, slash the red tape, and refocus on American production. Or perhaps they'll fight tooth and nail, doubling down on proprietary technology and global outsourcing, gambling that farmers will come back once the legal dust settles. Another path might see small farmers forging a new reality, increasingly reliant on each other, local markets, and alternative brands that meet them halfway. Ultimately, the future of American farming might hinge on these decisions, and not just John Deere's. Policies on trade, corporate governance, and intellectual property will shape what happens next. In the swirl of legal showdowns and political grandstanding, the voices of everyday farmers will either be heard or drowned out by the sound of deals struck in backrooms. But make no mistake, if you eat food, this story affects you. Farming isn't a niche concern, it's the backbone of how our communities feed themselves. If entire rural regions collapse under the strain of corporate indifference, or if foreign manufactured equipment becomes the norm, that transformation won't just be felt on the farm, it'll reverberate across grocery aisles and dinner tables nationwide. Are we on the brink of an era where a handful of mega corporations control everything, from planting seed in the ground to the final step of repairing a broken harvester? Or can an old-fashioned American spirit of independence, community, and innovation carry us into a new golden age of farming? We've reached a turning point, one that could see John Deere either reclaim the honor of its name or recede into the shadows of history, overtaken by more flexible and affordable competitors. The real question is, what do you think? Does John Deere still represent the best of American ingenuity, or has it gone so far astray that farmers have no choice but to jump ship? Should farmers embrace global alternatives, or is there a better way for this storied company to pivot and serve the very people who made it legendary? Let us know your thoughts. Your voice matters, because this isn't just a story about tractors or plants closing. It's about the future of an entire way of life, one in which families, communities, and the food on our tables depend on fair labor practices, honest corporate stewardship, and the freedom to fix what we own. Will John Deere adapt in time? Or will the brand's name fade from the fields it once proudly dominated? The coming months and years will decide. One thing is certain, farmers, politicians, and international challengers alike will be watching every move John Deere makes, because the fate of America's heartland might just hang in the balance. Thank you for sticking with this deep dive into a turning point in agriculture. If you found these insights valuable, share your perspective in the comments. Are you on the side of brand loyalty, hoping Deere rights the ship, or do you see better options on the horizon? By speaking up, you help shape the conversation and the future of farming itself.